Awesome. Great to be here. Hey, AWE, day 2. How are we feeling? All right? Woo! All right, well, as was said, I am Nicole Lazzaro. This is going to be making magical mixed reality. So even if you are in games, awesome. Even if you're not in games, what we're going to be doing today is taking 5 lessons from stage magicians and applying those to mixed reality. So this is a design talk. We're in the developer track, but this is a design talk. No code will be sacrificed in this session. And then it's going to, basically, we're going to demonstrate the practical applications, and we should start our timers, I think. Here we go. Keep me on schedule. There we go. Awesome. It's practical applications to practically apply these magician techniques to create more emotion in all of your experiences. And so for those of you who I haven't met, I'm Nicole Lazzaro. I'm a 30-year-plus game industry veteran. I've worked on games like Myst and The Sims, Diner Dash, Star Wars, The Matrix. Also worked in XR, so I've worked on the MGM Sphere. I've worked for iFluence and eye tracking, OS, lots of stuff. I also have some stuff out on the Apple Vision Pro. And among other things, I designed the first iPhone game, which we launched as Tilt World, and working now on Follow the White Rabbit, which is an XR mystery adventure about a magician whose magic suddenly works. And the rabbit disappears wearing a priceless diamond bracelet borrowed from the audience. And now, unfortunately, that bracelet is gone, so now everyone wants to follow the white rabbit. And the last thing I would say about what we're doing is I also measured emotion on people's faces. So this is definitely an emotion design talk. I used the first person to use Ekman's micro expressions to create what this model here called the 4 Keys to Fun. There's plenty of video up on YouTube of me talking about that. And it's used by millions of developers around the world. And as a consulting company, on the consulting company part of my job, is we really use it to create better product market fit, increase engagement, retention, both on operating systems, new technology, as well as games and applications. So we're going to talk, in this talk is really about magic, which is curiosity, wonder, and surprise. So if you think about what those emotions are to you personally, these techniques are all designed to create what we call action-emotion pairs. So the player does an action, and then they actually feel a different emotion. So in XR, when anything is possible, how do we create that moment of magic? How do we create that sense of magical wonder? I could pull pretty much anything out of this hat, like a 747. The 747, by the way, is the rabbit's idea. But it wouldn't feel magical necessarily, right? Because you knew the hat was virtual. You knew the plane is also virtual. It doesn't feel like magic. So that's where we're going to dive into what magicians do. How many magicians are there in the audience? Okay, there we go. Hey, Scott. Okay, so I have been studying magic for a long time. And I've just been fascinated by how those mechanics, like how does magic get in there, into the brain, and they create the effects. And so that's what we're going to do today. So the very first rule of magic we're going to talk about is setting the frame and breaking it. And so when you think about it, what we've got is a little bit like how do we create the feeling of the impossible? And to do that, we need to
shoot me. Come on.
Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, to do that, we have to actually believe the world first. This is a clip. This is a trailer for The Prestige. And it has a really great outline of how magic works. So, and one of my favorite movies.
Shoot me. Come on.
No, I can't shoot.
Do it. How'd you like that?
Well, how do you do it?
Magic.
I'll perform this feat in a manner never before seen by yourselves or any other audience anywhere in the world.
The audience loved it.
This trick is top-notch.
You need to celebrate.
A real magician tries to invent something new. It's something that other magicians will scratch their heads over.
I suppose you have such a trick.
Actually, I do. It's the one they're gonna remember me for.
What happened?
It was the greatest magic trick I've ever seen. I need to know how he does it.
He has no trick. It's real. Every great magic trick consists of 3 acts. The first act is called The Pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary, but of course, it probably isn't. The second act is called The Turn.
He's obsessed with discovering your method.
The magician makes this ordinary something do something extraordinary. Now you're looking for the secret, but you won't find it. That's why there's a third act called The Prestige. This is the part with the twists and turns, where lives hang in the balance.
Julie, come on!
And you see something shocking you've never seen before. This was built by a man who can actually do what magicians pretend to do.
Real magic.
I know what you really are!
How does he do it?
You want the truth?
Nothing is impossible.
Abracadabra.
No more secrets.
Secrets of my life.
All right, so we have sort of a three-step outline for how magic is. I'm going to use different language. But in a sense that what you want to do is you want to first set the frame, the pledge, right, in the trailer. You want to set the frame for what you're doing as a magician. So you establish a frame. This is an empty box. This box is empty. You're going to hit the sides as a magician. Bang, 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 bang. There's nothing inside it. But then afterwards, because that is an empty box, and if a woman pops out, then that's going to feel magical because you really understood that the box was empty in the first place. And so that's how you make it feel like it was impossible. If you had not shown that the box was empty, you would have just assumed that the girl was in it the entire time for the performance. How many people have seen the Knives Out movies? Yeah. And the third one, the Wake Up Dead Man, people seen that one? So for some reason, I really like the third one better than for the first two. So I went and I looked at, well, what is it about this third Knives Out movie that really dragged me in? Like, what did Rian Johnson, the director-screenwriter, do? Turns out he was friends with a magician who was called Ricky Jay. And every key scene, as I watched this movie 3, 4, 5 times, every key scene in the film, I recommend you watch it too, has magician stagecraft. So there's no magician in it. There's no magic in it necessarily, but they've used magical stagecraft magic techniques to make it feel like more of an impossible crime. So, for example, the first thing that the detective does when he goes into the room where the body is found is he can see here we've got clearly that those are made out of cement, and he goes in, he goes bang, 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 bang. Clearly, Rock of Gibraltar. This is a very solid room. There's no secret panels. There's nothing in that way. And then that makes it more impossible because he's done that. When later on you find out stuff about that room, it makes it feel more and more impossible. So because you set it up, you set the frame in the beginning that this is how physics work, you violate that expectation in a later scene, then that's going to create that sense of wonder because you set it up as impossible first. A later scene, and hopefully this won't spoil it too much either, but it's the cadaver scene. People remember that? And so the detective is like bouncing, it's like poking the cadaver in a very uncomfortable manner, actually. And then they say, and the body's not responding, and they say, flip the meat, and he flips the cadaver over, and it's just clearly a dead body. Now, what that does is that sets the frame for a later scene in the crypt when the body, a person can't just rise up from being dead. And in that second scene, it feels more magical because of what we saw in the first scene. Yeah, so is that man dead or is he not? So we establish the fact that the body is dead in a very visceral way, very physical way, and then when the body disappears, then that breaks your expectations, and you're now wondering why that body had moved. And that's what creates the emotion. And so in games in mixed reality, what we do is we would then do all you can to, in your experiences, to establish at the beginning, this is the reality, this is how physics works, this is the way in which the world works, but making, looking at, bringing references from the real world. And then break it in key moments. So here in Follow the White Rabbit, we break it a little bit with the teapot, actually reconstructs itself and it will sit there spinning in the middle of the world, right? And so it is an unreal, it is a magical moment. that is made more magical because we have established at the beginning that, that other rules work in the world. And that's how you create that sense of surprise. So that's that floating teapot puzzle. The second thing that we can do to create in our game experiences and our enterprise experiences, is we can do what magicians do. So because if we see something that we've seen in a magic act, like something levitating or something, a car getting restored or scaling, we'll automatically think of a magician on a stage, and then that will bring a little bit of sympathetic wonder from that. So if you think of some of the common types of things that magicians do, so levitation, making objects appear and disappear, teleportation, transformation, projections, escaping from dangerous situations, sleight of hand, mentalism, all of these are different categories of magic tricks. And so if you take your UI, like start with the UI, then like look at the objects in your experience, what can you do to create effects, visual and audio effects, that give you some of these experiences, similar to what you might see on stage, and then that will give you a sense of wonder. So, and that could go forward. So for example, in White Rabbit, here we're doing like a mirror effect where you can levitate, you can pick objects up just by looking at them, they come to you. You can move them around the room just with your hands or just with your head, your eyes. And then you can put something in a mirror and then something physical pops out. We do a lot of 2D to 3D translation. And then we do other things that you can't do in a real escape room, which is, let's see if we can we get that video to play? I guess not. Try one more time. There we go. Yeah, so when you solve this puzzle, the wall moves. And so walls that look solid at one point and move, again, will make you feel more magical. There are projections that are, you think that the corner of the room is a corner of a room, but suddenly you see that there's but then you get an illusion popping out of it, would change what happens, what you feel like during it. And then 2D can become 3D, so I guess what we'll do is we'll just sit and wait. I think that's the key for this. There we go. And so 2D paintings become 3D paintings, and you can interact with the paintings, sort of like the Mary Poppins jumping into those sidewalk chalk paintings. And then you can also use narrative to set up the magical experience. There's a lot on magic patter and how magicians set up the story for the magic act, and that will also increase the emotion. One of the ones I really like the most is Stay Forever Home. You have a pet, Ember, and when the dog, the pet, whatever it is, whatever the pet is, whatever animal it is, when it wants to go outside, it goes out through a portal. And I've gone through many, I'm sure everyone has gone through a lot of portals in your life in VR and AR. But there was something really magical about that story of like, a pet wanting to go outside. And I felt, for the first time, I really felt an empathetic response of this is what a dog must feel like when it goes outside, from the boring, real world to now this magical fantasy world. And there's a little bit of magical storytelling in there, stuff that magicians use. Now let's take it back to mixed reality, and this is a really great example from Porsche. And in this case, we will do the backwards and forwards again. There we go. So this is on the Apple Vision Pro. You'll look at what they're doing with their hands. These are definitely a magician hand kind of technique here. So you put your hand out, it levitates to your hand, it's now attached to your hand, you put your second hand out, and now you've got two of these turbocharged engines. You then sort of put it in place in the car model. And because you held it in your hand, you have a very visceral feeling of what that is. Putting it into the car model now, you now have a much more intimate relationship with those engines. It's making its marketing point much more strongly. And there's a bit of magic of holding an engine like that, weightless, and having it appear in your hand and disappear in your hand. So those little moments of magic, and the Apple platform is very famous for that in its OS, its operating system, as well as a lot of the experiences that come out on it, and other platforms too. So we want to set the frame and break it. Then we want to do what magicians do, levitate, make objects disappear and reappear. And then we also want to amplify the cause and effect. And so what is causing the cause and what is creating the effect? In reality, when you do a magical trick, something else is actually, moving is causing the coin to, appear in the hand, or, the lady to, be sawn in half. But the magician plays a key role in creating this feeling. So this is, how many people have seen the movie The Illusionist? Okay, this is a scene, this is the orange tree scene. And then just take a look at, I'd love you to take a look at, like, what about the magician? What is he doing? What is his body language, everything about that, and how is that, just think about how that is increasing the effect of what's happening. Because what's really happening is obviously some wires and some other stuff off stage, and not what he's saying, but he's telling that story.
Be patient.
So there's a
Now, if you
handkerchief
please.
in the box.
I would
Empty
like to
can.
continue with an examination of time. From the moment we enter this life, we are in the flow of it. We measure it and we mark it, but we cannot defy it. We cannot even speed it up or slow it down. Or can we? Have we not each experienced the sensation that a beautiful moment seemed to pass too quickly and wished that we could make it linger? Or felt time slow on a dull day and wished that we could speed things up a bit? I assure you, they're quite real. And you, madam, where is your handkerchief?
So there, I mean, wouldn't it be great? This is one of the reasons I love talking at AOW is I want to inspire people. And wouldn't it be great if your hand tracking is all the rage now? Wouldn't it be great for those hands to feel like what we saw there? With the way that he could roll an orange, around, rolling a ball around his thing, speed up time, slow down time. All of these things are quite well within our toolkit. There's also some interesting points where he takes an orange and they really communicated that it was real. That big knife, the cutting of it, you could hear the sound. You could see they have that little characteristic drop of orange juice falling out. And then he picked up, there was only one. Anyway, there's lots of techniques for this, but there's one scene, he picks it out and he pulls it out. All of these have a very visceral feeling and pull you into that experience. And then that was a real orange seed. So when a real orange seed suddenly accelerates time and comes up to the, blooms into an orange bush that then, might be virtual, might be not real, but then real oranges are pulled off. So we're moving between the physicality of very real objects, and then they're doing very unreal, very surreal in a sense, which we'll talk about in a minute, things. And so we want to think about like what will, hand tracking is one. The other thing that VR does and AR does really well is scale. And so we have, in White Rabbit, we change the scale quite a bit. And so here we actually go inside a magic hat. So we go from outside being full scale to inside the hat. And we're able to, move around in that way. There's visual effects such as the audio. I worked on the Mist series, back in the day, and one of the things I absolutely love about that is the teleportation sound. So we're gonna see if that we can hear that. Let's see. Go back. Could we press the? Is there a cursor? Can we press the button for that? So having worked on many of the Mist series, when they brought this original sound back, and we worked on Mist 5 and stuff like that, players were like, oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps. And the audio design can create, the feeling of those prickling back up, up the arms and back of the head, the hair standing up. That's actually the biological signal of wonder. And so if you're designing for wonder as part of your platform, really look and see if players will be, saying that. And then obviously the visuals and then the audio can really enhance that feeling. You want that feeling of wonder, in when you through a teleportation, you go into that world. It can enhance the effect as well. Now I can control it. I feel it magical. The other thing we want to do is look at hands. So what kinds of feedback? Think in your application if you're doing hand tracking, or even if you're doing wands and the fishing pole and stuff like that, UI. What could feel magical? And I'm sure as we all have done tilt brush and that sort of thing, just having a finger that can draw or a finger that can track little butterflies that land on it, that feels really magical. You have a lot of control, and then you are going into that virtual space, and you have magic in your hands. We see that a little bit with the Meta glasses, the magical visual effects. I got this off of a public review, I think. But that we can track them. They're tracking, and they're also just a little bit magical. Maybe we communicate some UI stuff on that. And then we go. So I think that works rather well. I think there's a lot more that you could do, but that kind of idea is great. And then if we look at some say virtual keyboards, some more pedestrian UI. What is it that we could do with that to make it feel more magical, feel more powerful, feel more, feel more in control, feel like there is, that you are more powerful than keyboards being one of the bane of all XR extended reality. They're really bad. They're just yucky. But if it was really fun, then you could do it, right? Likewise, thinking about architectural scaling. Scaling is a magical concept. What could you do to communicate that in a really interesting way? And then to wrap up, we've just got two final points, which we will go through. The other thing, last two things. One is using surrealism, right? And one thing I love about Walkabout Mini Golf, who's shout out to Lucas in the back there, is it does create a lot of these surreal moments, and it's basically accessing a lot of the same wetware to create feelings of wonder and magic. Fans of Magritte? Any fans of Magritte in here? So basically, surrealism creates this cognitive dissonance, okay, and uses scale a lot to create images and stuff that you want to look into, right? So you get the curiosity, which is leaning in, and then when you establish those physics or the way the world is, then you can violate that, and then you can feel magic and wonder there. I love this one here because the example on the left, he woke up in a friend's bedroom, and instead of seeing he was really blurry, and instead of seeing a bird in the cage, he saw an egg, and that was his inspiration for becoming a surrealist or founding that discipline. And you see a cognitive dissonance because that should be a bird, not an egg, right? It shouldn't be a baby bird. It should be a real bird, a pre-baby bird, whatever. And then you're seeing the scale on the other side. And so we've talked about changing player scale. We're also talking about in White Rabbit here we go into the Matchbox theater. And so the theater becomes the Matchbox, or the Matchbox becomes the theater. Matchbook becomes the theater, one or the other. And so we get these kind of juxtapositions of different scales and different purposes for things. In Starship Home, I think there's a lot of really cool things that they do. The way that they change your world, change your environment, and then you also have these great portals where you can walk through or pull them out off of a solid surface. So again, that's going from a 2D wall that's solid, and then something magical is coming out, something that's violating the normal expectations of what a physical wall should do. And then lastly, advanced technology, okay? And that's what we all do, right? We're all looking at advanced technology, and to create real world magic, no matter what the hardware is. We've got vision and voice interaction now. And so, why can't we have, more abracadabra kind of moments through AI, natural language understanding? I'm going to play, I think I may not have time to play this clip.
Special appreciation for our work.
I thought it was a secret.
You're a
We can go over,
magician.
okay.
Who's gonna believe you? Not long now.
Look for
Our
surrealism
equipment
in this
requires a
one.
great deal of current. Tesla electrified the whole town in exchange for using the generators when we need them. We do our tests when the townspeople are asleep. Mr. Tesla doesn't want to scare anyone.
Where are the wires?
Exactly.
And where's the generator?
You saw it last week.
That must be 10 miles from here.
15. And I have to write all of them before I get to bed.
I'll send word for you in a few days, Mr. Angier.
Magic. Real magic.
So the lack of wires, the lack of wires, the going, the lack of wires, the exploration of this is what I expect, and then it getting violated, and then all of that is creating a lot of fun, magical stuff. And we are, a lot of us are, where's the wires? You could have a very similar conversation in a demo of a lot of your tech right now. So just the last point here, we'll wrap up, is that for other types of advanced technology, we're going from in AR, from this Princess Leia hologram to a tabletop kind of experience to where we're actually understanding the real world. And so then with blending, what we're able to do with AI now is to mesh the real world and place it. We can categorize things as well, and then feed that into a game engine and get more magical, kind of experiences, because the glasses or the experience is understanding the world. So in White Rabbit, for example, we can semantically tag, your real fireplace, and in a mystery, we could put the clue, the bent virtual poker, in your real fireplace. See a virtual plate of food, a real plate of food, put the virtual vial of poison next to the real food. And so that's going to create these moments of magic. And wait, this is how the world works now? And we can all do that from semantic understanding of the world around us. And then obviously you can do more with the body, the AI understanding the body and poses and stuff like that. Those will all be novel user interfaces for many folks. And that is when you're a kid and you learn something new about the world, that's what's creating this learning, that's what's creating this emotion of wonder. So that's it. This is what semantic tagging might look like. And then just want to close out with Sir Arthur Clarke's, any sufficient technology is indistinguishable from magic. Okay, but it is important, and the reason to have this talk is it's not that the technology just has to be advanced. We have to set them up and remind them, this is how the real world works, or this is how Gen 1 works. Now we have Gen 2, and then poof, and then you'll feel that elevation. But if you just pop them with Gen 2, they may or may not even yeah, so what? Kind of like a kid, expects, walks up to the TV and expects it to work like an iPad type of thing. So these are 5 rules that you can take, and I'm really curious to see what you folks all do with them. If you want to watch some more movies, these are some of my favorite magician movies. And then we can wrap up from there. So yeah, thank you very much. This is contact information if you want to get in touch with me. Run out of time for questions, but we can take them outside if you want. Sounds good? All right, thanks very much.